Hey guys, Dean here. When you're making money, you want to retain wealth and you also don't want to overspend and outlive your means. So in this video, we're going to be going over how to budget for beginners and how to create a budget for your money so you don't spend too much and spend more than what's actually coming in. This is going to be crucial in the long term if you want to build up some kind of sizable wealth so you don't just spend all the money that you're getting as soon as you get it. So let's go over a few basic tips and tricks and some pretty useful methods which we can employ to do exactly this. So the first step what we're going to take is we want to first begin to list our monthly income. So we want to first begin with around 4 weeks of our take-home pay. So all of the money that we receive in a 4-week period, which is around a month, this is what we want to begin to list. Now obviously if you get paid maybe 2 times a month in a bi-weekly process or every single week rather than once a month, of course you can split this into multiple segments based on how regularly or frequently you're paid, for an example. And we want to have a look at our mandatory spending here. So what money we need to spend and what our most crucial outgoings are. So this includes things like mortgage or rent payments, any kind of insurance, be it home insurance, health insurance, and then also the crucial utilities, right? So this is electric, gas, water, and mandatory things which we require to get around and just generally sustain ourselves. So this would also be paying for transport like public transport or gas for a car, and also groceries because we need food to eat. So these are the main things we want to take a look at and inspect first. Then we want to evaluate our non-crucial discretionary payments. So what are discretionaries? Well, this is basically anything which we don't really need to sustain ourselves but are still very important. So these are the non-crucial things which still have an importance to us mostly. So this includes maybe things like the television, the internet connection, which is pretty crucial if you have a job requiring internet or if you just use it for things which are very important like work. The money actually spent on food, so this is mainly like eating out or going to restaurants or fast food rather than just cooking. So that's not really in the same category as groceries, which we mentioned initially. And then also shopping at maybe designer shops or on the high street and just general spending. Basically, discretionaries are anything left over from our goals or most crucial outgoings. They're separated into a different category. Remember to track these and don't overspend, because our goal here is obviously to live within our means, especially if you're trying to save some kind of sizable amount in the long term. And of course with this you want to look at your debt, your goals for the future, and also what is going to contribute towards a possible retirement in the future. These are all things we need to consider when we're creating some kind of budget, right? Now the next category is going to be important. So if your mortgage or your rent is more than 30% of your monthly income, it would be advisable to maybe consider employing some kind of strategy where you have a roommate or you have some kind of apartment share, so more people are contributing rather than just yourself, or maybe rent a cheaper spot so you can save some more money. Also, if your car or transport spendings or outgoings is more than 15% of your monthly income, you could also consider a solution to this by traveling less, or something like using the bus or some form of public transport, or exchanging your car for a bike if some of your locations you're going to are a lot closer than some kind of long-range trips that require your own vehicle. Also, if your food or groceries cost more than $300, which is around £250 per person in the household, try to cut costs. We can obviously do this via a few different means. So for example, we could shop for cheaper items and be a little bit more frugal with our spending, which includes things like buying in bulk, shopping for reduced or clearance items, buying less name branded grocery goods, or just going to cheaper stores. For an example, in the UK there are stores which are quite good for the price and value. These could include things like Tesco or Sainsbury's, but then you have more high tier supermarkets that people with more money tend to spend their money at, which includes things like M&S, which is Marks and Spencer's, and obviously Waitrose. In America, something like Walmart might be the cheaper option, but then you have other places like Whole Foods, for an example. There's many different methods of actually tracking the ingoings and outgoings and also to create our budget. So let's go over a few of these as well. Now, starting with the first and most simple one, remember a pen and paper is still sufficient. It's the old-fashioned method, but it still works mostly if that's the way that you want to approach it, right? So you can do it the classic way with a pen and paper and store the paper somewhere important, or you could use a more modernized tool. So for an example, Microsoft Excel or Google Documents on the spreadsheets feature feature is useful because they have calculations and formulas built into the cell sheets, which makes it really useful for the specific mathematical equations which you might need to use in a budget. One of my friends from America uses Excel for his budget because he can use these formulas for his calculations to add everything up a little bit easier. There's also the software which is Mint. You may have seen adverts like Mint Mobile, for an example. You've probably heard about that on YouTube or on certain adverts on television. This is a free software and it allows for the automation of tracking your money and your spendings, and it works in line with a lot of the major financial institutions, which allows you to aid with this. A similar one too is Personal Capital, which is free, and it's very similar to Mint in terms of how it works and relation to its function. There's also a more higher tiered one, which is YNAB. This is a subscription-based software and it has monthly and annual style payments. This is cheaper for students too if you have a .edu email. This is a budgeting app which you use to organize finances and to basically rid yourself of any debt to reach financial goals. But this is more of a higher tier software if you have the money to pay for it. And remember, paying for softwares like this, it's going to add on to your outgoings, right? Which is pretty ironic when we're creating our own budget. Then we also have a few open source software solutions as well. So if you want software which you can trust and you can see the source code of, and it's also free, you could take a look at options like GNU Cash, Homebank, and Money Manager X as well. These are good contributions and suggestions suggested by Reddit. So in terms of budgeting, there's a very popular method which is actually really useful. This is known as the envelope method, and it's exactly what it actually sounds like. So this method is very good for highlighting areas of typical overspending, be it food, entertainment, or shopping. Those kind of areas which typically most people would overspend and spend more of their money in, right? The particular category which you personally seem to overspend in a lot or you want to reduce, get out an envelope and write the name of this category or this specific spending assignment on an envelope, okay? And put the assigned money, which is the money from your budget, which you're only allowed to spend for this specific area, put that inside the envelope. Future spending from this category of outgoings can only now come from this envelope. The money in the envelope is the only money you can spend for this, right? This prevents overspending and it also gives you a really good visual idea of how much you're spending and the risk of you overspending in this particular area. This is why it's a really useful method. And of course, unspent money from this envelope can then also carry over to next month's budget. So that can also be pretty helpful if you don't spend as much as you would usually, and then it can carry over. This helps to consider your spending and it's really good for risk management and to physically see your outgoings, which is really useful for some people. If the envelope is empty, then you know you'd be going over budget by spending more and you're not going to allow yourself to do so. Now let's go over the final portion of the video, which is basically cutting costs on your budget. So after tracking all of your ingoings and outgoings, you can see the spending levels in comparison to each other in all of the separate categories and how much money you're spending genuinely for all of them. Now you need to set specific goals. So this could be, I wish to cut my spending in the shopping specifically by 15% this month, my outgoings in the shopping category. Now the following system is called the SMART system, okay? It's an acronym which is going to be for the next few points which I go over. So as you can see, this section is going to be in relation to specific, measurable, accountable, realistic, and time-bound goals. These are what make up the acronym of SMART. Budgeting goals should be accountable. This could be holding yourself or your partner or some kind of roommate which is contributing to the monthly spendings accountable for doing so, such as my partner must contribute a certain amount to our savings account this year, for an example. Realistic goals are also really important too in budgeting. Cutting 100% of costs in a specific area is just generally unrealistic and it's most likely unachievable, especially just in one single month. Gradual habitual changes is very key in this subsection. Also, time-bound alterations are also paramount, okay? So holding yourself to a deadline with an unadjustable time frame will tend to make you stick to them more. And that's basically it. That's the basics of budgeting for the first time and how to budget for beginners. Now, I'm sure there's a few other simple and more advanced methods which are a lot different to the envelope technique and also other tips which don't fall into the SMART acronym. If you have any other tips or any other methods of budgeting, please let me know about these in the comment section below because it will really help a lot of the people watching this video who want to learn how to budget. Maybe they're new to having their first apartment or they just want to learn how to manage their money a little bit better. So it's really important if you share your own personal experiences down there too, to maybe let us know of your personal way of how you manage your money, which could be useful useful. Like the video if you gained any value from it, and make sure to subscribe because I'm posting a lot of personal finance, investing, and saving videos over on this channel, as well as really awesome travel guides. Thanks for watching.